You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name, and politics is our game. And we will be doing lots of political economy tonight. We're going to be talking politics. We're going to be talking economics. We're coming to you from the Chicago Loop offices of Rizitco, and we very much thank Rizitco for helping to make the production of this show possible. And talking business, talking downtown Chicago Loop, we have an unusual guest. We have Tom Sodeika. He is not a politician. I don't even think he aspires to be a politician. Tom, what is the core of Tom Sodeika? Who are you?
Jeff, first of all, thank you for having me here in this unique opportunity. I'm an American. I'm a Illinois resident. I was born and raised in Illinois, and my sort of philosophy in life is live, love, laugh.
So you bought a business about 10 years ago.
Correct.
What's the name of that business?
Precision Payroll of America.
What do? You help clients do what?
We process payroll and tax payments for small to mid-sized business clients.
Okay. They have to do the work, they have to turn out the product and the service, but they got to ultimately, if they're going to be successful, these clients of yours, they got to meet a payroll.
Right.
What is it, every week, every month, every 2 weeks?
Every week,
they got employees who
every
expect, they've been providing services, what do they get in return? I mean, they're employees, they've been helping that company turn out services, so they expect a check?
Of course they do.
So meeting a payroll ain't that easy. I mean, the people who can meet payrolls can stay in business. These people who are in business, who are your clients, okay, they need to make a profit, right?
They need to make a profit.
And that's
yes.
okay, that's good.
Or at least break even.
Okay. But a profit, we have a profit motive. We have here, capitalism and freedom. You've seen this, you've heard of it, Milton
Yes.
Friedman, right? He used to say flip sides of the same coin, capitalism and democracy, capitalism and freedom. On the one hand, you got a market. On the other hand, you have this institution in which the markets function, right?
Right.
So, I mean, Milton was not really an anarchist. He realized you may want to minimize government, but you got to have some government, I think, right?
You've got to have some government because we're not angels.
So there's all this stuff. So, folks, what we're talking about today, we're taping this show on July 19th. We're just about 16 months away from the national presidential election, November 4, 2020, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are we talking about? We're talking about immigration. That's coming up a lot, right?
Immigration's been coming up,
Legal
yes.
immigration. We're talking about...
Well, unfortunately, it seems like everybody in the political sphere, in the ether, talks about immigration as one monolithic entity, but immigration definitely should be discussed as legal and illegal.
Okay. We're talking about send her home? Is that what we're saying? Send her back. That was the phrase that Trump used, right?
Yeah, but again, my understanding was now. The text that I heard read was why don't they go back to where they came from, fix it, and then come back and tell us how they did it, because they have apparently continually complained about everything in our country.
Who when
he's referring
who were they?
He's referring to the four freshman congresswomen
who call themselves the Squad.
Somebody's calling them the Squad.
The Squad. I think they call themselves.
This morning I heard them as the four horsewomen of the apocalypse.
So who are these four women?
It's Ilhan Omar from Minnesota.
Okay. She's a congresswoman.
Ocasio-Cortez.
She's a congresswoman about 36.
Yes.
Omar. AOC.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from, is it Brooklyn?
Bronx.
The Bronx.
Yeah, I think she and Trump have. I think Trump was somebody like from the Bronx. I don't know.
Yeah.
So he knows something about that. They got that in common. She's 29. She's
right.
a congresswoman.
Rashida Tlaib from Michigan.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure where Presley is from.
And what anything distinguishing of Tlaib? She's the first something, right? What is she? She's the first female Muslim congresswoman, possibly?
From Michigan?
Well, possibly. I don't even know if we have other Muslim congressmen. Maybe
we do. Well, we had males.
Males, but not females. So
I don't know if females. Okay. So you've got Ilhan and her that are both I believe, Muslim and
Right. Okay.
but those two have been rather anti-Semitic in
Okay.
their commentaries, texts, even a bill supporting the BDS movement that was proposed in the House by Ilhan Omar, which is basically trying to boycott anything to do with Israel.
So what did she say that was
And in her
anti-Semitic?
language there, she was comparing the boycott against Israel to that of the boycott against Germany, the boycott against Japan during World War II. It's very dangerous for the uninformed and uneducated masses to be hearing these types of things. And so I think, well, individually they're likely harmless, but by the fact and token that the Democratic Party has not taken responsibility to silence them or correct them or call them out, whereas we reacted to, again, I can't remember the congressman's name, Steve from
Right.
Iowa, the Democrats immediately respond, not immediately, but they began to react, and then they start thinking about, well, what is our reaction going to do by pointing out that some of our people are behaving poorly, that we better be careful. Let's just go ahead and say that anti-Semitism, bigotry, all that is bad to be said, without singling out the person who is responsible for the language, for the commentary. That is, and I think for that reason, they're not being held to account. They need to be held to account, and I believe for that reason, they're constantly in the news. It's really an unresolved issue.
So this
Steve
is
King, that's
Steve
his
King,
name.
right, from Iowa.
What he said, it was handled, it's done, and it's over with.
Right, he was censured.
And he paid a severe price for
Okay.
those comments. These folks have not. In fact, they got an interview on Gayle King on CBS in the morning as the squad, as the four women. Where I don't believe Gayle King has interviewed yet one of the Democratic presidential
Right.
candidates.
And nobody's saying, we have two Muslim U.S. reps, congresswomen, who you're saying have made anti-Semitic statements. We're not saying all Muslims are anti-Semitic.
Well, of course not.
But I've read people who were Muslim who actually were Somalian talked about growing up as a Somalian, blanking on the person's name, but this person's written that he is not anti-Semitic now, but he remembers being trained in that as he was growing up. So it may be that, and we'd like to have Omar on the show, and Congresswoman Omar and Congresswoman Tlaib, but
Good
maybe
luck.
they went through some of this training themselves, because maybe, and Tlaib has Palestinian parents, so she may have, it would be not unsurprising, it would not be surprising that she may have some antipathy toward Israel, not to say all Palestinians do.
Yeah.
But some of that, and same thing with Omar coming up out of Somalia. She came here to Minnesota when she was 12, but that may stick with you, and it may have continued. So that is an issue. I mean, we don't want people to be racist. We don't want people to be judging others by their religion, and we don't want people to be anti-Semitic or anti-Christian or anything.
Well, no, that's
We want people to be responsible if they make statements. As you say, they need to be held
Absolutely.
to. Because Ayanna Pressley has said, we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be brown voices. We don't need any more black faces that don't want to be black voices. We don't want any more queer faces that don't want to be queer voices. What does that mean to you?
I'll tell you in a minute what that means. Going back to Ilyan and Rashida and this group of four, I don't really think much about or speculate about their upbringing or what could have possibly caused them to arrive at their particular worldview. I'm just interested in the fact that the things that they've actually said, the results of what they're producing right now in the public forum, are offensive, many times offensive, and they're apparently being given a pass both by a bulk of our media, which there is definitely intransigent bias towards the left view. They're given a pass by their own political party. That is where I'm focused on. There is
accountability for their
problem.
statements and their
There's
actions.
no accountability
Yeah.
for their statements. Now, getting back to Presley's comments, and this leads into the whole idea of identity politics. And it's really come down to, and what I've learned over the years, and I remember growing up with my parents came from Lithuania. They escaped Lithuania when the Russians, communists, took over.
So your parents are immigrants coming into the United States?
Yes.
Many, many years ago.
Many years ago. They got here legally. They were in camps. They were in displaced person camps in Bavaria and Germany, 5 years awaiting an invitation and sponsorship from a family member or friend in the United States that would invite them to come out. They would have to have a job when they got here. They had to pass health exams, otherwise they were turned away. So that's the process that they went through back in 1949 to get here.
So you want to go back to that? Let me let you finish that thought. Okay.
But finishing that thought is that the reason why they escaped communism was that you began to get this control, this total control from business and economy, cultural, social. It was a tremendous clampdown on people. And so it became such that neighbors would go to the power structure and say, you better check out Rimvidas over here because I think he has a prayer group going on Sundays in his living room. And the soldiers would come and break it up. Of course, the churches were torn down. Right. So what you have here now is you have the left saying, if you're not for abortion till the age of 1, these infanticide bills that have been passed recently are disgraceful. If you are not for large government, if you're not for equality, then you have no business to be heard or seen. For that matter, we don't even want you in our restaurants. So what this Presley lady is saying is that we are forming this coalition of purported aggrieved, oppressed persons, be they of black color, of Latino descent, of Muslim religion. They can select any descriptor or class of people that they wish, put them together and put them all under this leftist ideology. And so if you, as a gay person, as an African American, as a Latino, believe in traditional values, you believe the Bible, you believe marriage, which the government recognized as an institution from the Bible as between a man and a woman, then you are to be ostracized. And so that is what she is telling their fellow members in their identified groups in this big tent of leftist ideology, that we don't need you, we don't want to hear from you. And with political correctness as a tool, they allow the leftists to call them names that nobody else is allowed to use, to impugn their motives, which is typically not general practice in political debate. They've given themselves free pass. And so we're getting to a point in this country where you've got one, frankly, deranged view and narrative, which is probably held maybe by 20% of the people, trying to control the rest of us socially, culturally.
So should we have open borders? Because
No, we should not.
The Democratic primary, presidential primary, they had 2 debates, 2 nights. One night had 10. They were asked on one of the nights when they had 10 candidates there, basically, should we decriminalize entering the United States without.
And should we provide free health care? And they all raise their hands.
Yeah. One, free health care, and two, entering the United States. Should we decriminalize that if you enter the United States without authority, without approval, so basically make it a civil penalty as opposed to a criminal penalty? And everybody raised their hand, all 10 Democrats.
Sure.
You think we should continue to make it a criminal violation to enter the United States illegally? Is that right?
Sure.
Okay.
Is it a criminal violation if somebody enters your home without an invitation? If
And you
they
think
break
the
the door to do
Republicans?
that?
Well, the Republicans. That'll be Trump's view. That'll be the Republican view in 2020.
I think it's going to be. It
Will
has
it be the
been.
country's view?
It has been, and it will continue to be Trump's view. I believe it has been and continues to be probably 65% to 70% of America's view. As to the Republicans, I have to tell you that I am so disappointed, and I find it shameful of the Republicans, the Democrats, and the powers that be in support of these parties and these members who benefit from this illegal immigration crisis.
You mean in terms of hiring labor that below market prices and so forth?
Hiring labor below market prices.
Who are here
people
illegally,
poorly,
so
which shame
yeah.
on the businesses
Yes, right.
who take these people and exploit these people for the purpose of profit for their business. You asked me earlier, is profit good? Profit is good, and you can earn profit in a good, healthy way. But not at the expense, certainly at the expense of your competition, but the profit should be earned for the benefit of the consumer, the producer, and those involved.
So we have 1 million or so, I think, in the last year, legal immigrants coming into the United States.
Yes.
Going through the process, applying, coming through, and so forth. Being checked, going through a variety of medical checks, security checks, and so forth.
Some medical checks.
Yeah, but
not everybody's been.
The legal immigrants.
The legal immigrants.
You're all for that million legal. Maybe you want to reshape it. Maybe we want to have people coming in with certain technical skills. Maybe scientists, people who are self-sufficient. We'd like that, and we may have gaps. We may want to use if we have gaps where we could use more skills in the United States labor force. We may want to look and make that part of the immigration. But then we're running at a pace maybe now of about 1 million illegal immigrants coming across the border, unauthorized. Many from South America coming through Mexico.
Right.
That's going to stop apparently. Now Mexico is agreeing with Trump, the government, to put troops on their southern border. So these individuals will not be coming through to our southern border.
Right.
We'll see.
We'll
But
see.
that million or so, that's, I think, the current pace, maybe up to 50,000, 100,000 a month, illegal immigrants. That's something you're not for.
No.
Trump's not for. Republican Party's not for. That's a battle because...
Well, again, I'll say,
You could do
we
it-
say the Republican Party is not for. I would just say to the Republican Party, prove it. Prove it that you are not for this constant influx of illegal immigrants.
But if you could check these folks out, you may want to give them work visas, you may want to check for national security issues, health issues. If they feel a need, you're not against that, as long as it's safe, is that right?
Well, look, if, I don't want to necessarily delve into the...
It's a very complicated subject. I don't want to...
Yeah, I don't want to get into the minutiae of things,
Yeah.
but, building a wall, having security, but having a number of doors and availability and access to this country, I think is a great thing.
How does business look at the Trump economy?
Business is very, very upbeat on it.
Or
And I will tell you, anecdotally speaking, we serve about 2,800 companies across the United States, all 50 states, ranging from 1 to 4,000 employees. We just finished a 2-month project where we reached out to every one of our clients doing a survey, asking on how are our services, are you happy with our platform, is there anything else we'd like to do? And we also engage in general conversation of how are things going for you. So anecdotally speaking, on behalf of 2,800 companies across the United States, again ranging from 1 to 4,000 employees. Things are generally going quite well. Wages are up. Headcount in the companies are up. More people are working full-time and getting overtime, which is all a positive result of the policy of reduced regulations, the tax policy allowing the reduction in corporate taxes, making corporations more competitive to stay in the United States.
But are employees, because you hear from various critics of the Trump policies, Democrats and others, say that those tax cuts just went to the rich. They didn't help your low-income or middle-class employee, just went to the wealthy, just went to employers. You talk to employees sometimes, as well as
I talk to employers, and I can tell you from my own
employees
personal...
and employers. Are they benefiting across the board from these tax cuts?
Yes, in fact, the middle class is probably the greater beneficiary. I will tell you, those that do well economically, from a ordinary income perspective, that's kind of a tax terminology. Those living in Illinois, New Jersey, New York, California are not doing so well because we capped the write-off for state income taxes paid and property taxes at $10,000. So you look at a state like California that has the top rate of about 13%. New York state tax and city and local could be upwards of 13%, plus the property taxes. New Jersey also very high on the state income tax and property tax.
So the high tax states are not doing as well, as what you're saying.
The high tax states and people earning above $250,000 in those did not get a tax cut.
Yeah, okay.
Our taxes actually went up.
Okay.
But that's never discussed because you see that has no attraction to the, what I'll say, the leftist masses who are wearing their Eat the Rich t-shirts and, bashing everything about capitalism. The number of bonuses that were going out to employees. People were celebrating the tax cut and reduced regulation by bonusing their employees, and we've actually seen real wage growth in the middle class and lower middle class positions of 3% now 2 years in a row.
And we've had unemployment as low as 3.6, 3.7% nationally, lowest ever.
We're approaching full unemployment from a macroeconomic old school, I think, is it 3.2 or 3.4%?
Used to be 4%, now they're pushing it down. But GDP growth under Obama tended to be 1.5%, 2%.
It was tepid.
On Trump, what are we talking now?
We're over 3.
And that growth is not just for employers doing well. It's not trickle down. It's if employers do well, if they can grow as firms, they're going to need employees. As you've just pointed out, real wages are growing for low and middle income workers.
Yes.
So it's the whole economy. Is your view, and will the election will it be a referendum on Trump and the economy, on immigration? What will it be?
I think we've reached the point now. I have seen enough from the Democrats that are either completely, partially, or majority socialist perspective of command and control in their view from a cultural, social, government, taxation standpoint. We're at the point we need to fight now for the American way of capitalism and a representative republic versus this is a much bigger fight. It's not just the economy, because this is now where the two have met, and who is going to win out. We've had such, in the last 8 years, and Obama was a big contributor to this massive lurch leftward from policies, from the amount of regulations. They were setting records with the amount of monthly regulations being released by all these agencies. That was just putting such a damper on the economy. All the Title IX issues, all these other issues that were coming up, they have made such a hard move to the left, and so now it's time that I hope that the fight is on a grand scale. It is the American way. I urge people to read the Declaration of
Crystallize it for me.
Independence.
What is the presidential election issue in November 4th, 2020? Crystallize it.
Well, I'm telling you what I think it should be. What it's going to be is what the media and the two leading Democrats decide it is. And the president's going to be fighting all the way to make the issue his issue. So.
And what will it be? Crystallize it just one last time, and then we're out.
Well, I think the president, if anything, should go with the economy and the fact that the rising tide has raised all boats. The left will likely, I don't know. They've got such a basket of.
Will he solve the immigration issue? Will he figure out how to control the borders in a humane way? Trump? Will he be able to pass that through the Senate and the House?
I think Trump will be able to put forth an excellent plan. He's already
for immigration.
Put forth immigration.
People will be voting on that when they vote for their House members and Senate members, as well as the president.
I think, as we spoke earlier, I believe 65% of Americans, they even had a poll where African Americans and Latinos, plurality, majority, felt that they should ask the question on the census as to whether you're a citizen or not. So if it becomes about illegal immigration, the president should win.
Okay.
And the Republicans should get on board. But he will not be able to pass something to resolve the issue because these reckless, careless, self-seeking politicians want to keep the issue alive for political purpose while thousands die trying to get here. They're gonna keep it going, so it will not get solved, and that is a pox on all of them.
All right.
For doing that.
Thank you very much, Tom Sodeika.
Jeff, thanks.
Appreciate it. Come on back.
But that went fast.
All right, fastest half hour on TV.